The Bible opens with God creating a wonderful world and creating us to care for, rule and develop it, sharing in his life, his purposes and ultimately sharing in his heart. But humanity rejected God and were enslaved to evil and death, ruining God's wonderful world. God chose to rescue the world through people, and so he called Abraham and his descendants, the Israelites. He gave Abraham great promises, delivered the Israelites from slavery, brought them into the promised land, and dwelt with them in the temple. But the Israelites were just as sinful as everyone else. Despite the warnings of the prophets, they broke the covenant God had made with them and fell back into slavery. So God promised a Messiah who would fulfill God's promises. Jesus overcame sin and death in his resurrection and offers forgiveness and new life to everyone everywhere. His followers are called to take his message to the whole world and live out the kingdom of God wherever they are, fulfilling the promises to Abraham. Jesus has overcome sin, evil and death, but they're still present in the world. The Bible promises that one day Jesus will come to judge the world and rid it of all that defaces it. He will renew the whole of creation, and it will become all he intended it to be. Jesus' own resurrection is a foretaste of what he will do for all who trust and follow him, and for the creation itself, raising it from death and decay to new life. The Bible opens with God creating a wonderful world, and closes with it and with us, finally becoming all that he intended. As with judgment, our society has a very different picture of heaven and the new creation to the one painted in the Bible. We think of naked cherubs with harps sitting on clouds, but the Bible pictures heaven as the place where God lives, and earth as the place where we live. At the creation, God dwelt with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. After Adam's sin, heaven and earth were torn apart, but beyond judgment, heaven and earth can be reunified, and God will once again dwell with humanity. Once Jesus has freed the creation from sin and evil and raised us to life with incorruptible bodies, we will see and know God fully and will be free from corruption and evil, perfectly bearing the image of the one who created us. We will then be able to fulfill the commission given to humanity to express the loving, creative, wise and just rule of God in his world. Every people and culture in the world will be freed from corruption and able to uniquely express the wonder of God without insecurity, violence or fear. As we think of our life in light of the great story of the Bible, the challenge is to integrate our story into God's story. As we do this, our lives will be filled with hope and meaning and purpose, alongside the suffering that goes with being a broken person in a ruined world. We can reflect on where we see the wonder of creation and new creation, and where we see corruption, brokenness and decay. We can think about how we can live our lives now, reconnected with God, in anticipation of the future hope of a new creation. We can work out how to influence the world around us and extend Jesus' offer of forgiveness and new life to our sphere of the world. As we do this, we find our place in God's wonderful, broken, being rescued world, and live a life that makes sense in light of God's glorious destiny for us.